joining us. Just time for a quick recap of the week, and we begin in Russia, the real Borscht Belt. Russia this week held a beloved annual tradition.
Vladimir Putin is hosting his annual call-in show right now. He's facing questions, more than 2 million of them were submitted, on everything from Syria to the Russian economy.
Yes, Vladimir Putin took questions for nearly 4 hours on TV. And look, we can all think of a few questions we'd like to ask him, like, have you ever blinked? And do you consider yourself more of a Miranda or a Charlotte? But the actual questions and answers were truly amazing, such as when he was asked who he would save from drowning first, the president of Turkey or the president of Ukraine.
If someone is determined to drown, you can't save them.
Wow. I think we can take from that response that Vladimir Putin would be the world's worst lifeguard. You have chosen to drown, my friend. For you, there is nothing I can do. Putin also answered questions submitted by children, like this one from an 11-year-old girl.
What 3 wishes would you make if you were to catch a wish-delivering magic goldfish?
Oh, OK. The magic goldfish question. That should be easy. For your 3 wishes, you just pick ice cream forever, invisibility, and then unlimited wishes. Easy. But Putin went a very different way.
OK, 3 wishes. I have to think. You know, basically, we shouldn't really rely on miracles. You know, even during the Soviet period, we had this song, "Nobody will help us, neither king nor a hero, we have to do everything ourselves."
OK, 2 things there. First, we all had that song. It's called The Collected Works of Bruce Springsteen. And second, this is the most amazing TV show ever. They should put this on much more often, because I would watch Vladimir Putin crushing children's dreams every week. This week on Putin Says the Darndest Things, Putin tells a child his grandfather isn't watching from above, but is rather rotting in the ground. But for now, let's move on to the UK, where 2,000 years of civilization led to this face. Last week, we discussed the fact it's hurtful when you clap that. Last week, we discussed the fact that David Cameron was revealed to have a family connection to an offshore company in the Panama Papers. He faced questions in Parliament this week, and one member, Dennis Skinner, brought up a conversation that they'd had years ago concerning Cameron's finances, and he closed with an explosive piece of name-calling.
I didn't receive a proper answer then. Maybe Dodgy Dave will answer it now.
Oh, shit! Dodgy Dave! Cameron just got burned. Or, as we say in England, boiled for too long and served anyway. Now, that comment set off a spectacular chain of events. First, the Commons Speaker, John Bercow, tried to calm everything down in a quintessentially English manner.
Order. I must ask the honourable gentleman, order. I don't require any assistance from some junior minister. An absurd proposition.
That is the absolute height of Englishness. Yelling at everyone to be orderly and then condescendingly mocking their status. He then demanded that Skinner rephrase his remarks.
I can't reasonably ask the Prime Minister to answer the question. All he has to do is withdraw that word and think of another. Sorry? I think he knows the word beginning with D and ending in Y that he inappropriately used.
Now, if I were Skinner there, I would have spent the rest of the session just guessing words that started with a D and ended with a Y. Is it dingy? No. Dignity? No. Deadly? No. Dilly-dally? Hold on, let me get a dictionary. Oh, is it dictionary? But Skinner refused, which led to this amazing moment.
I order the honourable member to withdraw immediately from the House for the remainder of this day's sitting.
He's used to this.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is English politics in a nutshell. An 84-year-old man just got sent from the room like a naughty child who just called his sister a shithead at dinner. I am so proud. And finally this week, Turkey. A country, a bird, and the meanest thing you could call someone in 1956. This week, Turkey's leader, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, caused a big stir in Germany.
Chancellor Angela Merkel has accepted a request to prosecute a comedian who mocked the Turkish president on German television.
Now, Erdogan had said that he wanted to take legal action against this comedian because this comedian read a poem on air that made very, very strong remarks against Erdogan.
He wants to lock someone up over a poem. Why doesn't he just do what the rest of us do about poetry? Listen to it politely because it's how Sarah has chosen to cope with the divorce. If you are wondering how on earth an insulting poem can be against the law, it turns out Erdogan may have dug up a 19th century German law stating anyone who is guilty of an insult to a sovereign or regent of a state shall be punished by imprisonment. And for the record, let me just say, I am very glad America does not have a similar law, or I would be in a maximum security prison right now, and I would not thrive there. But Angela Merkel is in a bit of a bind here because clearly this is a free speech issue. But the problem is Erdogan is critical to Europe's plan for processing migrants and refugees. And it seems he has an incredibly thin skin.
For Recep Tayyip Erdogan, satire is no laughing matter. Since he became president in 2014, almost 2,000 cases have opened for insulting the president.
It's true. Nearly 2,000 legal cases have been opened since he took office. That's more than 3 a day. And some of these cases have been unbelievably petty. In October, a physician lost his job and now faces a 2-year prison sentence for sharing a meme suggesting Erdogan's facial expressions resemble golems, which, by the way, they just do. That's not a criticism. It's not even a joke. It's just a biological fact. And last April, a journalist received a suspended prison sentence simply for liking a Facebook post that insulted Erdogan. And liking something on Facebook should never be a crime unless maybe you like a co-worker's beach photo at 3 a.m. That is the one exception because that is creepy. And look, Erdogan is the one at fault here. He makes it way too easy to make fun of him. For example, in 2014, he gave an interview in which he said this.
You can see that what Israel does to Palestine, to Gaza right now, has surpassed what Hitler did to them.
Holy shit! That is very offensive to Israel, and honestly, it's a little offensive to Hitler, who has to be thinking, are you fucking kidding me? What do I have to do? And that same year, he caused a bit of a stir with this remark.
You cannot bring women and men into equal positions. That is against nature.
Now, that statement is bad enough, but he said it at an international conference for women. The only way that could have been any worse is if he then said, but that's enough of me. Everybody, please welcome Grammy-winning recording artist Chris Brown. You're welcome, ladies. Chris Brown. And when Erdogan tried to smooth things over after that, it didn't go so great.
Erdogan did try to offer a compliment of sorts. He says he used to kiss his mother's feet because they smelled of paradise.
Oh. Even at an international foot fetishist convention, the sentence, my mom's feet smell like paradise, is going to get you some weird looks. Erdogan is clearly not a pleasant individual, which is why it's so hard to be sympathetic when you see this actual footage of him having his balls stomped on by a horse. Now, we've shown you that footage before, and we'll probably show you it again. Because the point is, Erdogan, if you are so anxious not to be mocked, try not suppressing speech in your country and others, and generally acting in ways that make everyone want to see you get kicked in the balls. And now, this.
And now, what in God's name is still happening on WCBS 2 News at 11?
High heel self-defense, tonight at 11. Inside a Dog's Mind, tonight at 11. Ghost rest stops, tonight at 11. Freeze yourself fabulous, tonight at 11. Big bucks in bags. Younger eyes. Text walking. The digital breakup. Digital amnesia. Digital anxiety. Digital dentistry. Dry drowning. Water overdose. What's in the water? What's in your wine? What's in the box? Keyless danger. Dog danger. Danger underground. The she shed. The man flu. Dude war. Patch me pretty. Summer sadness. Spiked spices. Sick of food. Are beards bad? Tonight at 11.
Moving on. Our main topic tonight is lead, the most dangerous thing in Led Zeppelin's name, and I will remind you, the other thing was Zeppelin. Now, we've heard a lot about lead over the last year due to the horrific events in Flint, Michigan.
Flint's tap water was laced with dangerous levels of lead. The state knew about it and did nothing.
There are 200 children under the age of 6 in Flint with elevated blood levels. 9,000 children have been exposed.
Yes, Flint has become a city whose very name evokes disaster, like Benghazi or Waco or Smurf Village. Never forget. Never forget what happened there. Never forget. Flint was a perfect storm of incompetence from start to finish, and the crisis began when the city switched water sources, a decision which was commemorated thusly.
3, 2, 1.
Here's the Flint.
It's a little weird to see people make a toast as they essentially drink poison. Because under those circumstances, you'd usually expect to hear something like, "I'll see you all in hell," or "The mothership is coming and soon we will all ascend." That new water source corroded the city's pipes and leached lead into the drinking water. And with all the bureaucratic clusterfuckery involved, politicians in Washington were lining up to be vocally outraged.
We've got children that have been harmed, and yet we're sitting here equivocating over words that may or may not establish blame.
The safety and well-being of our citizens is not a Republican or a Democrat or an independent issue. It's a human issue.
We're not some third world country where you get 100,000 people who get poisoned for long periods of time.
That's right, because there is only one poison that thousands of Americans should consume, and that is Mountain Dew Code Red. Code Red, the most delicious way of contracting red poisoning. That is horrific. So, we all care about lead in Flint now, which is great. Unfortunately, the problem is not just in Flint. A USA Today network report found lead contamination in almost 2,000 additional water systems spanning all 50 states. And we can't just act like it's not there, the way we all pretend that the public swimming pool is not 3% child urine. And that's generous, by the way. And if you're thinking, well, we should just rip out every lead pipe in the country, it's not quite as easy as that. There are an estimated 7.3 million lead service lines around the country, and we don't even know where many of them are. And if we did a partial solution, that could increase rather than decrease lead in water. But perhaps more importantly, even if we did replace all lead pipes, that still wouldn't come close to stopping lead poisoning, as one lead activist reassuringly puts it.
Kids are not going to get poisoned from a water fountain at their school. They're not. They're going to get poisoned from paint in their homes.
Okay. I like how that starts off sounding reassuring, but ends up even more terrifying. It's like saying, look, that boa constrictor isn't going to bite you. It's not. It's just not. It's going to crush you to death with its body and then swallow you whole, because that's what it does. But she is right. The biggest threat of lead poisoning to children does not come from water. It comes from ingesting lead paint dust. There are an estimated 2.1 million homes all around the country that contain both a lead dust hazard and a child under 6. And the CDC estimates over 500,000 children have elevated blood lead levels, and that's terrible. Lead is almost as much of a scourge in young children's homes as frozen merchandise. Why do you need 3 Olafs and a singing Elsa Mackenzie? Let it go, go. Hashtag let it go, go. And if you're thinking at this point, well, how big a deal is a little lead dust anyway? It's a big fucking deal.
How potent is lead? A child can be poisoned by only 10 milligrams of pure lead. To give you an idea of what a small amount that is, this spoonful contains about 4,000 milligrams. Today, we know just ingesting small amounts of lead dust can lead to brain damage and even death.
Okay, well, first, maybe don't say death in that jolly tone of voice over the photo of a baby, but second, it is true that there is no safe level of lead. It's one of those things so dangerous you shouldn't even let a little bit of it inside you, much like heroin or Jeremy Piven. Even low-level exposure can lead to irreversible damage, like lower IQs, antisocial behaviour, and reduced attention span. And the dangers are so severe that 20 years ago, Sesame Street even produced a video to teach kids how to deal with lead in their homes.
Let's go, everybody, from the top. Wash your hands before you eat. Wash your hands before you eat. Stay away from peeling paint. Stay away from peeling paint.
Enough! I've had it. Who do you people think you are, anyway? The lead police?
We are the lead police. We are the lead police.
It's a close call, but as police songs go, the possibility of being poisoned by lead is still less terrifying than every breath you take. Every breath I take, you'll be watching me? That's a crime. You're stalking me, Gordon. You're a stalker. That video was made 20 years ago, and it's enough to make you wonder, well, if lead paint is so dangerous, why the fuck is there still so much of it in houses where kids live? And that's a good question. Many countries around the world actually banned the use of lead paint in the 1920s, so we knew it was dangerous. But instead of joining them, America decided to put lead basically everywhere.
And humble lead also plays its part in preserving and protecting old and new buildings in the form of white lead for wooden structures and red lead for steel.
Wait, humble lead? It's a naturally occurring element, not Meryl Streep's Oscar speech. And also, if we're assigning personality traits to metals, why stop with humble lead? How about passionate zinc, free-spirited copper, and extremely racist tin? And it wasn't just newsreels promoting lead. The lead industry reassured us it was safe, releasing things like this colouring book inviting you to the Dutch Boys Lead Party, which sounds like the worst sex club in all of Amsterdam. And even when the government finally got serious about banning lead in the 70s and 80s, the lead industry did not go down without a ridiculous fight. Here is the head of a lead industry trade group pushing back against the evidence that lead was dangerous.
The fact of the matter is, if you look at a total national profile, we have never been healthier. We have never lived longer. There must be something that we're doing right.
What? He's basically saying, it can't be bad, I turned out fine, which is the #1 argument made by people who did not turn out fine. It's like when your uncle says, hey, I had my first beer at 10 and I turned out OK. But did you, Uncle Stu? Did you, though? Because your dinner last night was 23 croutons dipped in frosting. And that is not turned out fine behaviour. Make a change, Uncle. And by the way, there was already plenty of hard evidence showing that childhood lead exposure was harmful, due in large part to a study by this man, Dr. Herbert Needleman.
In the late 1970s, Dr. Needleman studied the baby teeth of healthy school children in 2 Boston suburbs.
When we looked at the data, we found that children who had high lead in their teeth, but who had never been identified as having any problems with lead, had lower IQ scores, poor language function, and poor attention.
That's right. It's time you knew, children, there is no tooth fairy. Your baby teeth were all taken away by Dr. Herbert Needleman. We told you the fairy thing because we knew that would creep you out. But you should be thanking that man, because thanks to studies like his, America started regulating and removing lead from our environment in the 1970s, resulting in a graph of child blood lead levels in this country that looks like this. Now, lead paint was banned here, and leaded gasoline was phased out all through here. So getting rid of lead in paint and gas was a major public health victory. You know that 18-year-old intern in your office who thinks he's so damn smart? Well, he probably is, because he was born after America's lead epidemic. You got lucky, Sawyer. Now go get my coffee. But even though we drastically cut back on the amount of new lead that we put into the world, we were still left with all the lead that was already there in our pipes and on our walls. And while we all agreed it was a problem, the cost of getting rid of it all was surprisingly high. In 2000, the estimated cost for testing for and then totally removing lead from old housing stock nationwide was $16.6 billion per year, every year, for the next decade, which is the sort of figure that turns the government into parents with a sick family dog. Hey, I know we said we'd do anything to make this better, but we just got an estimate from the vet, and do you know that in doggy heaven, every meal is hot dogs? Don't you think Bandit would like to go live there? I do. And look, nobody expected the government to pick up that full tab. That same report even ran an estimate of what it would cost if the government used interim controls, like sealing lead paint in or periodic cleanings, and only did that in homes where families with low incomes lived. And that cost came out to just $230 million per year, which sounded lower and therefore better. Unfortunately, and amazingly, we have never funded it at that level. For instance, the main programme to abate lead paint in housing, HUD's Lead Hazard Control Programme, has never been appropriated funding above $176 million. It's been steadily going down since 2003, and this year we've allocated just $110 million. That is just a little more than Americans spent to go see Ride Along 2, a movie which, incidentally, the New York Post described as funny as lead poisoning. And it's amazing. And look, that reduction is by no means because we were done removing lead from housing, because remember, there are still millions of homes with lead paint hazards in them. And according to HUD, they were only able to fund around half the applications for lead abatement grants they received last year, meaning many Americans still live in homes with lead in them. And sadly, it is often the groups least able to do anything about it.
Well, people in the lower socioeconomic levels go into older housing, less well taken care of housing where there may be absentee landlords, and as a result are more liable to have lead paint that has not been abated, has not been taken off the walls.
Of course, and if you are in that situation, you probably can't shop around for a new apartment. So most people with lead problems are stuck in homes they can't leave, trying their best to avoid danger, which may sound familiar because it's the plot of every fucking horror movie ever made. And the crazy thing is, while lead abatement is expensive, it's cost-effective. For instance, some studies show a correlation between decreasing lead levels and a fall in crime. And when you combine that with lower medical bills and greater economic activity, one study found that each dollar spent on lead paint hazard control would bring back at least $17 in societal benefits, which is great. Although the cost savings still do rank a distant third on my list of reasons to not poison children. Number 1 and 2 still being it's poison and they're fucking children. And you would think that our members of Congress would be on board with doing more to fight lead poisoning. After all, you remember how angry they were about all those kids who got poisoned in Flint, right?
We've got children that have been harmed.
It's a human issue. It's an American issue that affects Americans' lives.
We're not some third world country where you get 100,000 people who get poisoned. Poisoned?
They seemed so concerned. Concerned? Which is what makes it... But that's what makes it so frustrating that last year, all of those men voted for a bill that would have reduced the already low funding for HUD lead abatement programs by $35 million, amounting to a 32% cut. And the truth is, if you cut funding like that, a whole lot more children might get poisoned. Poisoned? Now, the good news is, those cuts didn't go through. The bad news is, the funding stayed flat. And by the way, the other two primary agencies that work on lead-related issues have had funding problems in recent years as well. which makes no sense. Because I thought poisoned children was something we were all justifiably outraged by. This problem was obvious enough 20 years ago for Sesame Street to feel the need to address it. And since we very much still have this problem, it's clearly time to address it again. Hi, Elmo. Hi, Rosita.
Oh, hi, Mr. Oliver.
I can't believe that it has been 2 decades since Sesame Street taught kids how to avoid lead dust. You two do not look like you've aged a day.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Oliver. I moisturized.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
You know, Mr. Oliver, Elmo's been hitting the gym.
Whoa there. Wow, I can see. You're ripped. Well, you both look great, but unfortunately, I'm here to say a lot of places still contain lead paint.
Oh, no. What can we do about that, Mr. Oliver?
Well, it's a good question. We need to care more than we currently do so that we spend enough money on containing it.
Oh, well, Elmo has some money in his piggy bank.
Oh, that's nice. Well, how much? How much have you got in there, Elmo? How much is it?
$1.76.
Okay, that's a start.
Oh, yeah! Elmo did it! Elmo saved
No,
the
you didn't do
day.
it. No, Elmo, you didn't actually do it because we're going to need a lot more of that money. Probably hundreds of millions of dollars every year.
Mama.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
100 million is a big number.
Sure.
Oh, come on, everybody. Let's count to 100 million together.
No, guys, no. We really do not have time for that. The problem here is people are worried that lead is too expensive a problem to fix.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, hey, Oscar, how you doing, Oscar?
Yeah. How can anyone say it's too expensive, huh? Aren't they aware that according to a study in environmental health perspectives, every dollar we spend on lead paint hazard control produces returns of at least 17 to 1?
Wow. That is an astonishing level of economic insight coming from someone who lives in a trash can.
Hey, this can is rent controlled. I've had it since the 60s.
Oh, okay. But Oscar, look, I know it's cost effective, but people just aren't willing to do it. I guess it just seems too hard.
Well, yeah, but just because something's hard doesn't mean you shouldn't try.
That's a good point.
Hey, should we sing a song about it?
Oh, okay, okay.
La la la, lead's a really big problem. Seems like it's everywhere. We can do more to fix it, but first we all have to care.
Well, that does make sense, Elmo. Things do tend to get done if you just decide you want to do them. Can you think of another example where that's true?
I can.
You go.
I wanted to tie my shoes. I could never do it right. Then I decided to practice it, and now they're all knotted tight.
They are! You did it! You see, you just have to have a vested interest in the outcome and you'd be amazed at what you can do. Oscar, you take a verse.
Yes, my trash can is messy. People stop and they stare. I suppose I could clean it up. The problem is I don't care.
Well, that is unsurprisingly negative, Oscar, but you know what? That's actually a fair representation of our institutional problems. So, there you go.
You mean I helped you prove your point?
Yes, Oscar, you actually did. Lead is still all around us, our pipes, our walls and our air. We should do more to contain it, but first we all have to care. Yes, first we all have to care. That's our show. Thank you so much for watching.